Had a question from Anand about overwhelm. Now, it's an interesting question to get this week, particularly today, because today I have been feeling overwhelmed. And I know why. I'm going to share with you a distinction. I'm going to share with you the structure of overwhelm, at least the structure of overwhelm as it works for me. And I suspect it probably works in a similar way for other people. I'm also going to share with you an idea for overcoming overwhelm. Now, overwhelm happens when you have created inside of your mind such a huge task, a huge project. It's so broad, it's so deep, it's so massive that when you look up at it, it looks like a huge unscalable mountain. And it just seems like, oh, how am I gonna ever do that? How am I gonna ever manage that? Where will I find the time? I've got other things to do, whatever it will be. The structure is simple. The structure is that of just mentally creating the mountain ahead of time. And one of the interesting things is I think that we are culturally conditioned to do this. I've spoken about this in other videos in other places. I'm going to offer a distinction here, and it is projects versus practices. Now, we are encouraged to think in project terms. All the way through our schooling, we are encouraged to see a piece of work that is to be done to get a specific outcome. And when you structure up a project, you decide what is to be delivered, and then you set out all the steps that you need to do, you need to get through in order to get to the delivery point. And then you look and you have your project plan, you have it either scoped up formally or you're just holding it inside of your head, and there it is. You've built your mountain. Now, I'm kind of doing this at the moment because I'm working on some books. And one of the books that I'm working on is being done this way. It's been done in a kind of a project way. There is a vision for how it's working ahead of time and how it needs to be. And frankly, today I'm feeling the overwhelm. So what's the other choice? The other choice is to orientate instead of to projects, to practices. Now, a practice is an activity you engage in regularly. You engage in every day. So instead of orientating to the outcome and all the tasks you have to get through to get to it, practicing means carving out some time every day and just being inside of that time with the thing that you want to be working on. So if we take books, which is in the forefront of my mind, you can either put together an outline for the book, what it needs to be, all the chapters that need to be there, all the information that needs to be in the chapters. And then you can knuckle down to getting through producing that content. That's the project method. Or the practice method is to clear your mind and set aside a small amount of time every day to just be present in that moment with no other distractions. Now, I recommend when you do this, you just do a short amount of time, even just half an hour, even just 15 minutes. Just carve that time up, show up inside of that time and be with the thing that you're creating. When you do this, you're free. I also, when I do this, when I work in a practice way, I create a not to do list. So I actually go up to my whiteboard, and if I'm going to say take half an hour out, I put the title of what I'm going to spend half an hour with at the top, and then I write a not to do list, all the things I'm not going to do in that half an hour, like check Facebook, like answer phone calls. I'll often put my phone on airplane mode, like make tea and coffee, these sorts of things. So I have a not to do list, but I do not have a to do list. You see, no things are obliged to be done. You see, no obligation, no procrastination. It's a little trick. And then I just show up in the time, and whatever I do is what I do. There's no pressure. It's just being present. So that's the practice approach versus the project approach. Now, I wouldn't advocate that there's a right method for everybody, but I know for myself, and I know for many people I've coached, that by orientating to practices, it's often much easier to end up creating something that, after the fact, it's quite huge. But ahead of time, you're not thinking about it that way. I'll give a quick example, by the way. If I think about Hypnosis Without Trance, my Hypnosis Without Trance blog, that blog and the members area, which is actually being rebuilt at the moment, that had over 100 videos in it in the members area when it was on the old site. That's being restocked now. Now, if you think about it, 100 videos, if I'd have said to myself ahead of time, right, what I want to create is a website with a members area with 100 videos teaching various aspects of hypnosis, That would have been a huge job. Frankly, I would have been overwhelmed and I never would have done it. But it didn't evolve that way. It evolved out of an ongoing practice of creating videos and creating content sort of as and when the inspiration struck, or as and when, I'd carved out time to do that. So by engaging in the practice, in ongoing creative practices, something emerged at the end, which is a website and the members area and all these free videos and these free content, and also along with that, the formal programs as well, which were created in a similar kind of a way. They just sort of emerged from creative practices. So there we go. There's my video on overcoming overwhelm. And just think about those two distinctions, which are projects versus practices, and have a think about which one is more likely to serve you.